Do 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 do.
Hey Kurt, your webinar's working. Awesome, man. Excited to be here.
It is working. I'm excited.
Hey, doing great so far.
I'm feeling good. Feeling good. Okay. Well, let's get this party started. It's noon. We got a lot to go through today, folks. So buckle up. We got a lot to do. So I will be checking the chat, and then we'll do questions at the end. But if you have any egregious things that you want to get started talking about early, just let me know. I'd be happy to start up here. All right, so let's do a quick gut check before we start. All right. So, have you ever wanted a project so badly and you knew you could nail it, but then maybe froze the second the client asked for a fixed price? So, I want you to hold on to that feeling for a minute because a firm I know lost a six-figure deal very recently to exactly that. And they have a great team, great reputation, and the kind of work that anyone would want. And when the client asked for, one number, they just couldn't give it. They froze. So we'll come back to that story here and I'll explain. But thanks for the hour, everyone. It's the middle of a work day. I know it's Friday, but it's still a lot to give up. So I'm going to keep this useful for you today. Um, so I want to talk about what happens when you're pricing and what happens to your pricing when AI can do a big chunk of the work. And I mean the money side of it, the margins, the stuff that's already moving inside of deals, the things you're running right now. Okay. Let me move to my new slide. So, who this is for? So, let me give you a little background on me if you don't know, on why I'm the one up here talking. So, I ran an agency called Foundry. I was the president, and we grew it quite a bit, made the Inc. 5000 list twice, and then I stepped out, and now I advise other shops instead of running one. So I've sat in your chair ever since I keep running into the same kind of owner. They're booked. They're booked solid. The work is genuinely beautiful, and the team is just slammed. But come December, the end of the year, though, they still can't tell you where the money actually went. And so here's what they all have in common, and that is that they charge for hours, or maybe they charge a fixed bid that's really just those same hours in a nicer suit or in a different suit. They're pricing what the work costs them to make. And for a long time, that's worked just fine. But here's the problem. um, that has changed a lot. And people are not looking for just capacity these days. Okay. So today we're going to be going through a number of different things here. We're going to be talking through where your offers might leak margin to AI, um, and how to charge for that expertise without scaring people off. And we'll go in there and we'll dig into this. Um, so do me a favor in the chat and drop a one if raising prices for you is on the docket for this year, or if two, getting hourly is off your list, or three, if both are, because I'd like to know where I should steer this thing a little bit. Um, it would be really helpful. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Okay. So what's changed? Well, the work itself got cheaper to do. And the thing you used to build 20 hours for, a good person with the right tools now can pretty much knock out in 5. Same results, sometimes even better, right? And the clients already know this. They're using the same tools at home on a Sunday, writing their own emails, and they're making their own images using ChatGPT. So when your invoice shows up, there's a little thought that's sticking in the back of their head. Maybe hasn't this gotten easier? Most of them are way too polite to say it to your face, but it's there. I promise you, it's there. And it's already shaping up in what they'll pay before any of them sit down to negotiate or send out that RFP. So, real quick, do me a favor, drop a thumbs up in the chat if you've ever had a client hint, even politely, that your work might be easier now. Have you ever had a client even a whiff of that? Give me a thumbs up. uh, so, and you're like I said, you're not imagining it. That quiet little assumption is already sitting there on every deal that you run. So if your price is billed by hours, you've kind of handed them the argument. Less time, fewer hours, smaller invoice, right? To them, it's just simple math. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you to slap a fixed price on everything. That's not the thing. That backfires and will get ugly. And I'll get to why. But let's get started with a simpler question. If you're not selling hours anymore, what are you actually selling now? So what you're selling now is your expertise. And I know some of you might say, well, that's what I was doing in the hourly model, but this is different. Um, the thing that got the most valuable, the work got cheaper, is that expertise. So the expertise got exponentially more value. Is it actually good? Is it right for the client? Is it safe to put in front of their customers? An AI draft can look perfect and be dead wrong. And you are the one who can catch it. When it ships, you're the one standing behind it. That's what they're really buying. They used to get it for free bundled inside your hourly rate. And so that's where we're headed today. Okay. Um, so let's talk about this expertise thing, and we'll because that's the whole ball game here. There's an old Warren Buffett line that I keep coming back to, which is price is what you pay and value is what you get. Your clients feel that gap every time they open an invoice, and closing it is our whole idea around what we're talking about today. Okay, so picture the deliverable you sell all the time. Something you do all the time. Say it's a landing page. 2 years ago, building that page was most of the cost. Somebody wrote the copy, somebody designed it, somebody built it, somebody shipped it. Those are real hours. You billed for those hours, and the value and those hours lined up, and it felt very honest. Now you run the same page today. The first draft of the copy, AI hands you that in a few minutes, a rough layout, a few minutes. The build, it's faster than it's ever been. So if you're still billing hours, that page that used to be a $15,000 project is now what, a $4,000 project? You just handed them 11 grand and the client's got the same page. So where did the value go? Well, it moved. So here's where it went. Somebody in your team looked at that AI draft and knew it was generic. That headline wouldn't land with this buyer. The offer was buried. So they rewrote the promise, cut half the page, and decided what the customer actually needs to see first. That expertise matters more than the typing ever did. The typing is now cheap, and the expertise is what has gotten rare. So you see all these people, and I'm sure you see it on LinkedIn and all these other things that are like AI marketing and AI this, and I'm launching an AI thing, and you probably get inundated with those agency bros on Instagram and other places where they're talking about 7-figure agencies and all this stuff. There's no expertise behind what they're doing. They're trying to let the AI just do the work for them. And so, yeah, that work is going to get cheaper. That work we're going to be up against that cheap work. But we were up against it a decade ago when India started shipping, tons and tons of staff augmentation And we were up against people that were outsourcing tons of their work. This is a very similar type of thing. Daniel Pink wrote a book on this years ago before AI showed up. So if you've never read any Daniel Pink books, go today after, not right now, but after this meeting, go to Amazon and buy all of his books and just read them. It's called A Whole New Mind. So his point was simple. The routine work, he wrote this years ago. The routine work will get automated, and the people who pull ahead are the ones with expertise in the big picture read. Um, and he was just a little early, but that's the whole world now. So, um, so that's the expert. Here's the expertise where it shows up every time. So first is experience, or taste or whatever nomenclature you want to use. Knowing the difference between fine and right gives everyone, AI gives everybody fine, and fine is the floor. You're charging for the gap between fine and the correct execution, the thing that will actually work. There's the filler and there's the thing that will actually work. And that gap is wider than it's ever been because everybody is swimming right now in just okay, because that's all ChatGPT and Claude and whatever AI platform you're using, that's all it's delivering right now is okay stuff. So the second fit is knowing the client, knowing this market, knowing this buyer. If you've listened to any of my videos, if you will follow me at all, I keep talking about how much you've got to narrow in on a certain industry, certain subset of people, not just one. You might be able to chunk it out into multiples, but that's a different conversation. But the more you start narrowing down, the more you start building expertise in that area. The model doesn't know your client's last launch flopped because the pricing page scared people off. You do. That context is yours, and that's worth a lot of money. So the next risk, and this is the big one, and most owners undersell it. So when you put work in front of a client's customers, somebody is going to be on the hook if it's wrong. AI will hand you a made up stat and say it with total confidence. You copy that, it lands in front of a real person, a legal claim, maybe nobody checked. You're the one that has to catch it before it goes out the door. You're underwriting the work. Okay. So people aren't used to seeing that as a line item. Okay. That's, but it's real and it should be on the invoice. This is stuff that we've never charged for because we bundled it with the hours, folks. So when a client looks at the invoice and thinks this got easier, and now sit with this for a second, the making got easier, yes, but being right got harder. There's a more fine looking, quietly wrong work out there than ever. Like it looks fine, but it's all quietly wrong, right? Um, so let's talk about, you know, the last project you won, did you win it on hours or did you win it on expertise? Let me know in the chat if you got a second. So if you build them for hours, what won the project still was the expertise. Okay. So you're pricing the cheap part and giving away the expensive part. I bet on your last project, the real value came from 2 or 3 calls somebody made that kept it from being generic. You're just not pricing those things yet. So Theodore Levitt, again, great guy. Again, if you've hung out with me for probably more than 30 minutes in the past, you've probably heard me use this quote all the time. The customer is not buying the drill; they're buying the hole it creates. That's why we buy drills. If you ever read Clayton Christensen, he talks about jobs to be done. If you've ever heard that term before, if you haven't, I suggest you look it up. Because jobs to be done is a great example of how people actually try to, solve problems with things, right? So right now, I'm not in my usual studio. For those of you again watch content, that's because I'm sitting on a camper on the shore of Lake Superior right now, and so my job to be done is to do this webinar. And so I bought Starlink not because I use Starlink a ton. It's because I have young boys that love to play video games, and they want fast internet for their video games when we're camping, okay? Because they're still going to play their video games even though we're doing the whole outdoors thing. And Daddy still has to run a webinar. So that's why I bought Starlink. I didn't buy Starlink because I thought, oh, I love Starlink. That's not the whole point. Anyways, I could go on forever about this. All right. So hopefully you're sold on this idea. I'm getting you to start thinking about how to charge for expertise instead of hours. And here's where this transition usually stalls. So you go back to your you go back in the office on Monday, grab the next proposal, slap a big fixed bid price on it. No more hourly. We're all value based now, and that's one of the things that could happen. And they're the client box because the number came out of nowhere and there's nowhere to anchor it on. Or they say yes, and then in 3 weeks the scope balloons, and now you're doing twice the work for a flat fee, bleeding worse than you did when you were billing for hours. So let's do this right. Okay. Moving off hours is a transition and it has an order to it. Now, I want to be clear. I currently work with a dozen different agencies all over the world, and none of them bill just fixed or just value or just outcome or just hours. It's a hybrid. The more successful ones have a hybrid because some clients, their procurement team, they need to see hours. And that is the only way you can work with this client. They have 90-day terms. They are a beast. I get it. So we'll get into that. Yes, and we'll talk about timesheets. Yes. Thanks, Adam. So let's do this. Right. Moving hours is a transition and it has an order to it. So don't flip your whole book of business overnight right now because you're going to just wreck your cash flow. And so that's where we practice. Okay. So one of the things we're going to be doing here is talking through picking one offer. That's the one we're going to anchor on. Okay. We're going to quote the outcome of that offer, price what the work does for them. And then we're going to anchor to their math, which is what is the problem costing them? Because one of the biggest things for agencies is they never ask. Okay, I'm going to say this again because if there's one big takeaway besides the math I'm going to show you today that I need you to understand, you need to ask the client, what is this costing them? Hey, we need a website rebuilt. Great, let me go and give you, stop. We need a website rebuilt. Why? Well, because ours is ugly. What is that costing you right now? Well, we don't really know. Oh, can we help you figure that out? What is that? Well, we need a new customer portal because people need to be able to log in from their phones. Okay. How much business are you losing because people aren't able to log in from their phones? Having those questions and and the idea here is to make sure we are grounding it in fact with the prices costing them. And then we can lock the scope to that solution, not for any changes and things that could just be an hourly slush fund or however you want to call it with the client that can pick up extra pieces and other things along the way. And so, make the change orders normal. These are not exceptions. You have to talk about and set those expectations up early that change orders are a normal part of the process. That if we don't change as we're going, we're probably missing opportunities. Okay. All right. So again, what is this costing you every month? It's sitting there, not being done. Okay. One of the best questions I learned to ask early on in my agency career was, why now? Why is now the time to do this? And whatever the next 5 to 10 minutes of them talking was usually the first. Basically, I took almost verbatim and put in the summary of my proposal, and it worked. It's magic because I'm basically opening the proposal with, you are losing customers. You're not getting the conversions you thought you were. Blah 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 blah, and everything you're about to read here will show you how we're going to fix that for you. And I can't tell you how many deals that helped close because it was talking about the value and not the hours. One of the other things I used to do too, and still recommend, is put the price on the first page. Don't make, they're just going to scroll to the end anyways. You do it, I do it. Just put it on the first page. Just be like, this is what it's going to cost. Here's the value in it. Done. We're good. Anyways, yes, thank you, John, for soapbox because that's all this is. I'm on a soapbox today too. So, so we're gonna set the floor here, okay? That's I'm just using easy math here because it's just easy math. For you, it might be different. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out, DM me. I'd be happy to walk you through anything you've got live right now and help you with some ideas around this. So, um, let's talk about, make sure I'm on the right page here. Um, so here's how we actually land in there because price the outcome can stay vague until you've done it a few times, right? This isn't just something you can just pick up. It takes a little bit of practice, right? So there's three pieces. There's a floor and a ceiling, and then there's your price in between. So the floor is what it costs you to deliver plus your margin plus a contingency for the risk that you're carrying. So let me talk through that real quick because this, I know it can get confusing. So you should know what your cost is, okay? What your cost is to do this work. And I don't care if you judge it by hours or if you judge it by salary or whatever the case may be, okay? I know an agency that works with a very large client. They have a team that works with this large client. They just roll all those salaries together for a year because the client signs up for a year. They roll all those salaries up for a year. They add their margin that they want as a business, and then they add a risk contingency based on the client, and that's the price they give them for the year. So here we go. So what it costs you to deliver, plus your margin, whatever margin you want to be making, and I hope it's up there. Plus a contingency for the risk. How do we judge contingency? Well, okay, a couple of things here. And again, I'm not going to get into super detail right now, but one of those things would be, has this client ever done this before, right? There's a few boxes you can check and make some math that will help you sort of figure out what the risk and what exposure you might have. Has my team ever done this before? Have we ever as an organization done this before? What are those risk factors that I could put a little math to add a contingency to this? And so that's going to be our floor. And the ceiling is their number. What is this actually worth solving to them? That comes straight out of those initial questions you're asking. Okay. And then where our price sits is right in between. Okay. And that's usually 10 to 20% of what the win is worth to them. Okay. So let me give you a real example. Had a client that was processing about 400 invoices a week by hand, by eye, and I mean they were still doing it on a computer, but you know what I mean. They had to go through and check each invoice visually. So every error and late billing was costing them about 400 grand a year. That's what they estimated, and for their size, that is a senior team's whole salary. So they're bleeding out through a process that nobody was really watching. So our floor, the real cost to fix with the margin and the contingency baked in, came to about 100 grand. And their ceiling was what the fix was worth over its life, right? So is this a $400,000 a year problem? Well, that can run way past 600,000. So we priced it at 120, and that's 20% of the value, and it paid for itself in about 4 months. Easy, yes. And we made better margin than we would have made if we would have charged by the hour. So notice what we didn't do. We didn't take our cost and just add a little bit of margin on there. The floor was just the line we could not drop below. Okay. Because the floor was that's what we need to make. That's our floor. That is what makes us a business, is that we have profitability. We have a little bit of slush for leeway, and we have our actual costs baked in. Okay. So quick gut check before we keep going. You've got the floor and the ceiling now. Okay. So in the chat, tell me which one you're worse at. Okay, give me a floor. If you type ceiling, you're in good company. Okay, most companies should be able to price their costs in their sleep. I hope you know what your costs are. Okay, but nobody stops to ask what that outcome is really worth to the client. It's very, very rare. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you're listening to this and you're like, yep, I know all this. I just was bored and wanted to listen to you while I'm chatting. Um, and I appreciate that. Um, so uh, my thing here is that this is the thing that nobody really wants to hear. The reason a fixed price shows blows up is almost never because of pricing. It's because of the scope, right? So most firms decide scope loosely. They get into the work. They figure out what they actually agreed to somewhere around week 3 or 4, and then the project manager shows up and says, "We don't have enough time." When you get billed hourly, that's usually fine. I mean, you know what I mean by fine. Like we can at least go back and be like, "Hey, we need more hours because we underestimated the hours," and then you can have that conversation. With a fixed cost, the clock just keeps running, and the client paid for that mess. And the second you go fix, that mess comes straight out of your margin. So before you can price the outcome, you also have to get sharp about scope. What's in, what's out, what's a change order. So you have to get good at estimating. And that's where people really struggle with this too, is that sometimes they are very bad at estimating. But listen, I'm currently working with a company that's been around for over 25 years. Okay. They are very good at their work. They know what to do. When it comes to estimating, they can almost all of them can look at a thing and tell you what it's going to cost ahead of time. So, yes, if you've only been in business for a couple of years, this is a little bit more challenging. But for those of you who have experience, who's been doing this for a little while, um, that's scoping the work up front, especially when we're just taking off things and we're doing this to things that we are good at and things that we're doing well, right? Like I said, things you do repeatedly. We do websites. Okay, great. Lock down a price for that website. Now, I know it change orders and things, but that's okay. We're still pricing for the outcome of the website and not discovering it halfway through. Okay. So let's talk about the change order line, right? So hang on, I want to make sure I'm on the right slide. Yeah. Okay. So um, so you need to make it normal. Matter of fact, it's just how you work. So hey, this shifted. So this is what it does to that number. So say it early and often, and the clients will respect it. You know, you spring it at the end, or you have those 6 internal meetings about how you're going to tell the client it costs more instead of just picking up the phone as soon as you know and having the conversation before it gets too late. That's where people fall down on this. Okay. It's not just about being super good at everything. You need to be able to um, you need to act quickly. Okay. So here's how AI fix all of this, right? So yes, it makes production cheaper, but it also makes scoping and estimating way faster than it used to be. So you can model an agency project, draft the SOW, and map the risks in a fraction of time. One of the things that I'm working with a client right now is we're going back and we're using AI to audit a ton of their past projects, from their timesheets to their Jira to their Monday to all the other things. And we're starting to find averages between different projects. And that's allowing us now to start looking at how much are we spending on those projects and how much of those could we put a confidence and a margin on and just call it a fixed cost. So this is where AI can help you even more. So if you can model a project, draft the SOW, and map the risks in a fraction of time, so that same tool is squeezing your hourly rate is what makes fixing price doable. Okay. So, um, so there's a catch though, and it's about your costs. A lot of owners quote off what they think AI can do, or worse off, what AI tells them it can do. Oh man, don't get me started. Both of those run optimistic. As founders of agencies, owners of agencies, we are gifted and cursed with optimism. But so is AI. So when you put us together, oh my gosh, disaster can happen, folks. I can't tell you how many founders I know that are up at 2 a.m. talking to AI about their new great idea, and they're just sitting there um, spinning wheels in mud because it's not going anywhere. Because you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're not actually making any money. So if you're using AI a ton and not making money using it, it's another conversation. So sure, it made them faster. It came out 19% slower here, and they walked away convinced that it sped them up. But um, the people doing the work couldn't feel the truth about their own speed. Now, this sounds like it cuts a little bit against what I told you earlier, but the work did get cheap to produce. So both things are true. The first draft got dramatically faster, but the total cost to ship, that didn't fall nearly as much. The work moved from producing to checking. The cheap part got cheaper. The expensive part, your people reviewing the output, got bigger, right? So they're spending more time now. Do you see what I'm going with this? They're spending more time reviewing and making sure things are the right thing because we can't just ship what AI sends us. We all know that. So that speed you feel on the first draft is real, okay? But it's also a trap if you just price it off, okay? So before you put a fixed price on anything, measure what the real speed up is on one actual task and then another and then another. Take the real piece of work from start to finish and the time to review too, then price off what it actually costs you to ship. Not off on what the first draft showed up because your cost has moved, okay? It has moved from the making of the thing to the making sure it's good part of the thing. The production hours shrank, but the senior review time got greater. And this is why I tell people there's going to be a greater need for more senior people in agencies. There's going to be um, more people that are going to need more senior people, not because um, they need them to do more stuff. They need more people reviewing what is being produced. Um, so the senior review is one of your most real costs now, and it's the same expertise you've already been charging the client for, but now we're going to do it on purpose. So that's the order. Offer one offer first, price the outcome, anchored to their math, land on the number, floor and the ceiling, get your scope tight, make the change orders normal. Then you widen up from there, price by the offer, muscle gets stronger. I know I'm making it sound simple, but it really is once you start getting those muscle memory together. So let me make this. I know I can be abstract in when I talk, and sometimes I talk in generalities, but I want to. If you remember for the story from the firm at the top, the one that froze on the fixed price, well, here's what actually happened and what we did about it. Okay, so the details are disguised as numbers, and the numbers are scaled, but the pattern is real. So this isn't. I'm not giving you the exact number. I'm just using stuff. So really good team. Almost all their revenue ran through time and materials, billing by the hour the way they always had, and they hit a wall. So a good opportunity comes in. Big project for them. Big worth somewhere around $100,000. Okay, let's just say it was worth $100,000. Client wanted a fixed price, and it's a reasonable ask because this firm couldn't give them one with a straight face because they didn't trust their own estimates enough to commit. So they hedged. The client got nervous, and the deal walked away. Okay, because they tried to fit in all of the different little exception management and risks and all these different things. And I remember hearing the client there's a whole section called risks in the proposal, which, by the way, if you're using the term risks in your proposal, don't. Okay, because the client's like, we haven't even started the project yet. Why are we talking about all the risks? Um, so maybe use something like exceptions or something. Anyways, so 100 grand gone because they couldn't quote with confidence. So we dug it in, right? We dug in. Two things showed up. First, they had no real handle on where their time was actually going. The hours were leaking everywhere. Nobody could see it. So the fixed number felt like a guess. And second, then this is killer. We looked at their their quality problems. Most of them came down to scope, things that broke because nobody pinned down what to actually build. The scope ended too early every time. It didn't account for maintenance, add-on work, or fast follows or things like that. So what looked like a pricing problem was really just a scoping problem. It's not about the price. It's about that you are scoping it wrong. and they couldn't name a confident price because they couldn't confidently say what they were building. Fix the scoping, fix the estimating, and the pricing fear mostly solves itself. So that's what we did. So their scoping got tight up front. We build them a simple checklist. What's in the job? What's in the change order? What has to be true on the client side? And this matters way more than it did 5 years ago, folks. Okay. It just matters. So let's talk about the thing that used to feel like old-fashioned AI project hygiene, right? So, you might think, well, Kurt, it's great, but I don't run a shop like that. It doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter. Same pattern everywhere. I work with all these different organizations. Video production studio. AI is coming for big chunks of the edit, man. The rough cuts, the captions, the cleanup. If that studio is billing by the hour, every tool speeds up the edit, shrinks the invoice. The thing that the client hires them for, the eye, the story, knowing which part lands, which edits are good and which ones are bad. That didn't get cheaper. So the price is that direction in their eye. On the analytics firm, the dashboards build themselves now. I've got a bunch of them. They build themselves now. It's great. The AI writes the queries, right? It takes, so if you're billing hours to build reports, you're now exposed. And I think analytics firms have some of the best opportunity in this because it's about what should people do with what the information is, right? People have dashboard fatigue nowadays. What they're looking for is solutions. And I know I keep talking about this, right? A dashboard is not a solution, okay? Just like I tell agencies owners, no tool will fix culture, okay? If you have a bad sales culture, installing Salesforce doesn't fix it, okay? Same firm, it's the same story every time. The firm that, the tool eats the production, expertise is what's left, and the expertise is what you charge them for. We've been through this before. If some of you have gray hair like me, there used to be a time when we moved to what was called desktop publishing. If you want to look that up for some of you young folks, when we used to do this work with big rulers and X-Acto knives and Rubylith and all that stuff. Did that work disappear because the desktop, Quark and Adobe and everything else came along? No. Just because the work got easier to produce a logo did not mean the logo was worth any less. So we've covered a lot. Okay, I know, I just want to leave you with one actual thing to work on now because it's a webinar. I don't want to just, this isn't just entertainment. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Okay. So pick your most repeatable offer. If you don't know what that is, again, this is where AI could help you. It could go in, if you hook it up to whatever timesheet thing you've got, whatever project management tracking you've got, find where your repeatable work is happening. And it might just be a slice of a part of bigger projects too. It could be, I don't care if it's just the initial discovery, whatever the case may be, the most repeatable offer. Okay. Now run the test. If a client assumed AI made it easier, could you hold on to the price? Okay. Could you hold on to the expertise and the risk that you're carrying to make it land? If the answer is yes, well, good. You'll raise that price because you're probably underpricing it. If the answer is no, well, that's your project. That's the offer to go and rebuild, okay? Get the scope tight, name what you're really selling, and reprice it around what the outcome is, okay? So if you can price it easy, great, just do it. And I guarantee you're probably underpricing it anyways. And if you want to argue with me about, well, people don't want to pay for that and stuff. Well, we can also talk about how to get a better class of clients. That's another webinar to have. So now, if you want to figure out, this is, like I said, the anchor question: what's it costing every month? The scope template, is it in? Is it out? Has to be true. It has to be factual, right? the change order line, right? What's shifted, what it does. These are the three simple things. If they've given us a price, they've told us what it cost them. We are the experts at knowing what our price should be. We're not guessing. Okay. If we have to guess, then you probably should just stick to hours. Okay. And again, like I said, I am not telling you to just flip the script on everything you're doing and just start billing um, by the hour or by fixed cost. Okay. So, and what I did is I built a little something. If you want to help figure out which offer that is, it's a short little scorecard, and you can run some offers through it. And hopefully, it answers some questions for you. Again, it's a real simple tools. It shows you which ones might be the most overexposed, which tool might be to fix first. Um, and you can just get the link here or take it off the screen. It's again, there's no gate here. You don't have to enter your email to get the results or whatever the case may be. But if you do want to talk about it, there's a contact form on there if you want to talk more about how to actually do some of this. So, and maybe you'll go through this and realize this is bigger than just one offer. Maybe your whole pricing delivery needs the work. Okay. And here's the next step. Most firms I work with start with a short, sort of repricing readout, right? So, you take your most exposed offer, pull apart the scope and the pricing together, and you walk out knowing exactly what to rebuild, what the market will bear for it. And it's something I can help you with. Okay. I'm more than happy to. Um, so, charge for the result. AI is making the work cheap to produce. Did I say that already? Okay, good. It's genuinely good news for you. Okay. Once you stop selling the production, charge for the result your client is actually after. Okay. Charge for the hole that's dug, not the drill. Okay. Charge for the outcome you create them. Do that, and the money will follow the value. Okay. And the firms that come out of this richer are the ones who have a clear path about what they are actually worth, and they had the nerve to price it. And you can be one of those. Okay. Just start with one offer. It's real simple. All right. Well, thanks for spending the time with me. I got a little bit of time here. If people want to throw out questions or do a discussion, more than happy to. Otherwise, you can have 15 more minutes to chew your food. I'm more than happy to chat. Oh, there's Mr. Lenz. He popped right up.
You bet I did. Well, Kurt, I think this is really relevant. We're working through this with a client, e-com client. I have a digital marketing firm team. E-commerce client, we manage their paid search and their feed, and we've been doing a really good job. Um, so good that like they had a X million dollar revenue goal, and we're gonna beat it by like a lot, even though our fee
Nice.
only rose like a little bit. So the team is going up there next week. We have a meeting with the client, and they're talking about like how to raise the price, or if there's like a bonus, like an incentive structure tied to
Sure.
performance. Like, cool. I think we kind of decoupled that. That'll be a follow-up conversation. But
Yeah.
one thing that we're talking about doing is expanding. Like, cool, we're really, really good at paid search, and there's a ton of opportunity in like their lifecycle marketing and their SEO and organic stuff. Um, and actually, one of my colleagues was like, I don't know if we can just like double or triple their retainer. I don't think that would be well received. And I'm more of
What
the
if we can
mindset
double or triple their revenue
revenue.
in this work?
So
Then
that's
I
what
think it
that's
would
what
be
my point
fine.
was like. I think that we're able like tell the story now, ask
Yes.
permission to like build out the forecast. Like, hey, we can use data and model this out with your analytics, your conversion rate, this keyword
Yep.
data. So I think it requires more work from the sales
It
process
does.
standpoint. But then I also think it's like, no, yes, a program like this costs X amount a month because we're aiming to drive this much more in revenue, and you don't need to pay Google for it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I see. I exactly that. Now, here's what I want to be very clear about. And this, I apologize if I start ranting because this drives me freaking nuts. Is that so many firms and agencies talk about partnership and we're your partners and we're partners and go to their website and we like to partner with our clients. hey, what kind of clients are you looking for? We're looking for people that want partners. Most of them don't understand what that word actually means. What it actually means is what you are describing right now is that you are going in and you are taking some accountability and responsibility off of the client's hands. That's true partnership. Partnership isn't just being responsive to an email. That's what most agencies think. But what you're describing, that is partnership, where you go in and say, hey, we want to deepen our partnership with you. And what that looks like is it looks like you give us more access to the data so we can make sure that we are more accountable to the outcomes that are coming from it. And so, yeah, you're thinking about it exactly the right way, John.
Okay. I need to bring the team along, but yes.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Again, like I said, this is not a light switch. It's not overnight. It take most, like I said, the math part is easy in most cases. The math part is easy. It's the shift in the mindset of people having to understand that what we are doing is we are getting paid because we are experts now. And what I've seen in a lot of agencies is that they've been for years been apologizing for their work for a very long time, you know, and because I've had project managers and stuff saying, showing up and saying, well, we can't charge the client for this. This was our mistake, you know? And I'm like, oh, was it? Was it our mistake? It might have been our mistake from the beginning. It's our mistake now. But if we hadn't set better expectations about how this partnership actually works, if we wouldn't have taken more accountability and more responsibility earlier, we would have budgeted for this mistake. It would have already been absorbed in the partnership. So, all right. What else, got? Garrick, you're down here. I see you. I know you got something to say.
Uh,
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
I think the I'm glad that you mentioned in the middle of this the floor and the ceiling. I think a ceiling is underappreciated. I think it goes back to John's earlier their point just now is we can't raise the rates 3x on them. Well, maybe you could, or maybe you can't, but um, without knowing how our work fits into our client's business, we
Mm,
actually don't know where the ceiling is.
sure.
Um,
That's a great point.
um, there is a like in like there was some comment about using harvest for utilization.
Hmm.
And I think it ties into that as well on the internal side is we can't squeeze an incremental hour out of our team members
Hmm.
past a certain point,
Yeah,
right? So we have a ceiling internally as well in our own capacity.
sure.
And so knowing where those limits are and what we're going to need to do to get past them, I don't think we appreciate enough in the creative world.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and folks, if you ever have questions about pricing, Garrick is the master. So make sure you connect with him. He knows more about. He's learned and forgotten more about pricing than most of us will ever know. So, um, he's an expert with it. So if
Yeah.
you follow him on LinkedIn, I'm so honored he joined today because he knows this stuff inside and out. Because he's exactly right. This commoditization is 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 just going to continue as AI starts to grow and grow and grow and become more deeply ingrained with our clients. Because AI is dumb. Okay, it's dumb. It'll say this is great. Like, what's a good headline for this client? This one. And you look at it and you're like, what? This is a terrible headline. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've seen where clients have been promised that AI is going to do all this stuff and they've gone down this path. And that's what they are going to continue to do is go down this path and try to fill in the gaps themselves. But then when the rubber meets the road, they're going to be like, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this. You know, I shouldn't be, um, I shouldn't be shipping this out there. Now, some people can't be helped. Some people are just going to continue to bump their heads against the wall. But guess what? Those people are just not good clients. Okay. They're just not good clients. Okay. My dad always said, okay, there's no such thing as a bad client. There's just clients you don't charge enough. And it's 100% true. So if you have a client right now that is driving you batshit, like honestly, I'm telling you, it's probably because you're not charging them enough. And if you can't go back and renegotiate, try to replace them. It will save you and your team a lot of headache. Yeah, the other thing I want to mention too is that starting small is really important, folks. Okay, don't try to just take this $1 million offer and repackage it overnight. I think Garrick would agree that start small. Start with your discovery processes or your upfront things that you know really well inside and out. You do over and over and over again. If most of the work you do is completely custom, yes, this is going to be more challenging for you. But here's what I would argue. Does most of your work need to be completely custom? Or is that just because the team has decided culturally that every project is a beautiful and unique snowflake? I bet you that it's the latter for the most part. I think there is much more opportunity for you to package some of the work that you're doing. Not all of it, okay? But a good chunk of it can be your highest margin things. When I was running Foundry and we had fixed this high confidence billing, because you go out and you look, there's this term that only in agencies use, value-based pricing. For some reason, it's this infection that's only infected agencies in our professional services world. But if you go to talk to lawyers, specialists, all these other people who bill by the hour, dermatologists, they and you mentioned value-based, they would be like, what? There's that makes no sense to me. We have just kind of created this term because again, it goes back to like we're kind of embarrassed about our work. Sometimes, we're thinking it's maybe not as valuable as it is because to us it's pretty easy, right? And that's the problem sometimes we run into as craftspeople that start a business. A craftsperson who starts a business inherently undervalues their work. Why is that? Well, it's just what I said. We know how the sausage is made, and we know that it's it's easy for us to do this. But then you put it in front of somebody and they're like, whoa, this blows my mind. Like this solves all my problems and all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, cool. But I don't feel like I changed the world here or whatever. Like that, I appreciate the craftsman mindset. We just got to be careful that it's not underbidding and valuing us. I want you to be good at your craft. I want you to be proud at your craft. Okay. I do, but I do not want you to undersell it. And so that's what today has been all about. All right, folks, I'm going to cut it here. Like I mentioned, if you have questions, comments, whatever, feel free to reach out, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, schmidtconsulting.group, because .com was taken. Come and find me. Let's chat. More than happy to. We don't need a formal engagement or whatever. I don't need to charge you by the minute. Again, value-based pricing, folks. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate you for taking the time, showing up. Next webinar is coming in a few weeks where we're going to dive even deeper into AI and how to be using it in your agency to make more money and not more busy work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate the kind messages. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right.